Today's lesson is on graphing a relation from its equation. This is really a quick review of grade 9, and what we're going to do today is we're going to do the slow way. We're going to start off with an equation, and we're going to make a table of values, and then we're going to graph the picture. And in the not too distant future, what we're not going to do is we're not going to do a table of values because that slows us down too much. So I just want to remind you of your grade 8 and grade 9 math and get us ready for grade 10. So in our first example, what we're going to do is we're going to make a table of values from the following relationship. 2 integers add to 4. Now remember what an integer is. An integer is a nice number. It doesn't have decimals. It can be positive, it can be negative, it can be 0. And that's all we're going to do. So really what this is asking is what 2 nice numbers add up to 4. And you could think of an infinite amount of them. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to call the first number x and the first number y. And again, remembering from grade 8 and last lesson, the vertical axis is y, the horizontal axis is x, and the idea of ordered pairs. And if you look at the points underneath, recall from grade 8 and grade 9, I've said this the other day, but again, same idea, order matters when you plot. So I'm just going to make up 2 nice numbers that add up to 6, and I'm going to try to have some positives, I'm going to try to have some negatives, and I just want to make sure that they all fit on the graph. So here are 5 pairs of numbers that add up to positive 4. Now we're going to, again, just review graphing those. So we don't really have an equation, but we made a table of values, x comma y. X always comes first. Think of the order of the alphabet, and y second. And now we're going to plot these points. So remember, we always start at the origin, 0, 0. We go x first, then y. So -2 in the x direction, positive 6 in the y direction gets us there. 0 means we don't move in the x direction, and we go up 4. 1, 3 is right there. 5, -1 over 5 down 1, and 7, -3 over 7 down 3. And again, if I asked you, how are those 5 green dots related? I hope you would say they all line up. And again, that means it's a linear relationship. And we're going to focus on those next lesson. So again, make a table of values, plot the points, and remember those key ideas. Order matters. Okay, so here's a similar question, except this time we have a mathematical relation. X plus y equals 4. And we want to do the same thing. We want to make a table of values. And again, let's have 5 values. And all I simply want to do is figure out some x's and y's that make that work, that are connected in that way. So I'm going to pick -2, 6. I'm going to pick 0 and 4. I'm going to pick 1 and 3. I'm going to pick 5 and -1. And I'm going to pick 7 and -3. And all of those numbers add up to 4. X plus y equals 4. And again, I go ahead and I plot those. -2, 6, 0, 4, 1, 3, 5, -1, and 7, -3. And in this one right here, again, I would ask the questions below. So using that, look at these questions below. And if I said, how are these points on the graph related? And I really hope you say they line up. So just like the example number 1, they line up. And if I said list some other points that line up, you could simply go anywhere on this picture and figure some other ones, like let's use -1, 5, or 2, 2, or 4, 0. So -1, 5, 2, 2, 4, 0. Remember, 4, 0 and 0, 4 are not the same. So here are some other points that line up. We didn't choose them, or I didn't choose them. You might not have chosen them, but they work as well. So in looking at at our next idea. What is a point that doesn't line up, and how can we check algebraically? So if we looked and picked a really silly, obvious one, well, 0, 0, the red dot, doesn't line up with the blue and greens. So 0, 0 is a point that is not related in this way, and that's how we could check it. To check that this point does not line up, that it is not an x and y that adds up to 4, we simply plug into x plus y equals 4 and see that it doesn't work, meaning it actually doesn't add to 4. Now it's very obvious, but I want to do this anyway. So again, 1 plus 3 is 4, 5 plus negative 1 is 4, but 0 plus 0 does not equal 4. So in our next idea over here, what do you think you can do with all the dots you've plugged? And I think what you would say is, well, I can connect them with a line. If they line up, then we can connect them with a line. And in fact, we can, but you have to be very careful. So do this by hand because it will not accept. That's supposed to be a straight line, and when you draw your straight lines, please use a ruler. So here's a really important question. How is example number 2 different from example number 1? And they are different. So here's how they're different. Example number 1 said integers. And in integers, again, integers cannot have decimals. Example number 2 just said x and y. It just said figure out any two numbers that add up to 4. So even though we didn't choose them, x and y could have been decimals. So we could have chosen an example like 2.5 plus 1.5 equals 4. Now the problem with that is it's difficult to plot decimals exactly. We want to stay away from them. In fact, by staying away from them, by picking nice points, then we don't have to worry. So let me give you a really not nice one. 1.63 plus 2.37. That equals 4. But could you try to imagine plotting those points? So again, one of the things that we are going to focus on is we are only going to plot with nice points, and those are the only ones I'm going to accept. No decimals, no fractions. Let's make our life easy. It really doesn't matter. So this thing right here, two numbers that add up to 4, there's an infinite amount of them. If there's an infinite amount of them and they all line up, why don't we just pick some nice ones? So that's what I want you to think about. Just pick up nice points. And again, this is called mathematically, not a big deal. It's called the equation of a line property. And basically what it says is every coordinate of every point makes the equation true. So if you pick off any coordinate of any point that we've just plotted on the previous example, you plug it in and it works. And the other side is, this is actually what we did. Every point whose coordinate satisfies the equation is on the line. And really what that is, hey, that's our table of values. So let's do a couple of trickier ones. And again, what I want to focus on is nice points. So here's what we have. X squared plus y squared is equal to 8. We want to make a table of values. And I just want to give you a quick couple of hints. Always try 0. Always try 0, always have some negatives, always have some positives. So in this one right here, if we plugged in 0 for x, then what we would have is 0 squared plus y equals 8. And again, 0 squared is 0, so 0 plus 8 equals 8. So that's all I'm doing. I'm doing a quick little substitution and trying to figure out what the other number is. Well, another number I would pick for x is I'd try the number 1. Again, really easy to plug in. 1 squared plus y is equal to 8. Well, 1 squared is 1, and we know that 1 plus 7 equals 8. Again, another number I would try would be 2. And for x, and I'd plug in 2 squared for 2 for x, and we get 2 squared. And we know that 2 squared is 4, and 4 plus 4 is equal to 8. So again, notice I'm picking x's first. If I picked y, then I have to make sure that we get a nice number that's square rootable. So again, x squared is nasty. Let's just plug in a number. Now again, I want you guys to get in the habit of picking some negatives too. Always try 0, always try positives, always try negatives. So again, whenever you substitute, always substitute in brackets. And here's what we end up with. Negative 1 squared plus y is equal to 8. Negative 1 squared is equal to positive 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. So therefore, y is equal to 7. And negative 2 squared plus y, again, always substitute in brackets, especially with negatives. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. And 4 plus 4 is equal to 8. So here we have 5 nice points, and I'm going to go ahead and plot them. So here's 0, 8, here's 1, 7, here's 2, 4, here's negative 1, 7, and here's negative 2, 4. And obviously, this is not a line. It's actually a parabola, but I would just hope that you would connect them as best you could. So again, the main idea is making that table of values, choosing some x's, figuring out what the y's are, and be careful with integer arithmetic. And if you have to do quick calculations on a rough piece of paper, go ahead and do that. So one last one, again, simply draw the graph. And again, we're going to focus on nice points. If they line up, we're going to connect the dots, and if they don't line up, well, we're going to try to connect them as best we can. So let's go ahead and graph this one. So again, we want to make our life as easy as possible. Always try 0. So if I tried 0 with x, here's what I'd get. 4 times 0 plus 3y is equal to 24. Well, I'm going to do all the algebra here. This goes to 0. 4 times 0 is 0. So we end up with 3y is equal to 24, and we divide both sides by 3, and we get y is equal to 8. Well, if 0 worked for x, let's try it for y. So again, you don't have to always do the x stuff. You can just plug in whatever numbers you want. So in this one right here, we'd have 4x plus 3 times 0 is equal to 24. 3 times 0 is 0. We get 4x is equal to 24. Divide both sides by 4, and we get x is equal to 6. So that's looking nice. So the other ones are a little bit tricky. They might involve you messing around. So here's what I'd like you to do. Pause the video for a second and try to figure out 2 other x's and y's that are related in this way. Okay, so here's the 2 I came up with, the ones that fit on the grid, 3 and 4, and 9 and negative 4. So again, with 3 and 4, we get 4 times x, which is 3, plus 3 times 4, which is y, is equal to 24. And 4 times 3 is 12, and 3 times 4 is 12, and I don't think we have to do anything more. 12 plus 12 is 12. What about this one right here? Well, again, 4 times our x plus 3 times our y. And I want to know, does that equal 24? 4 times 9 is 36. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And again, 36 minus 12 is equal to 24. So sometimes we have to, when we're making our table, sometimes we got a little bit creative and not guess and check, but we got to try a few. But we don't want decimals. I'm only accepting the nice points. So now, again, just to go ahead and graph this, there's our 0, 8. There's our 6, 0. Here's our 3, 4. And here's our 9, negative 4. And if I asked you, how are those points related? Hopefully you say they line up. And again, you're going to use a ruler, and I can't, but here it is right there. We're going to connect those dots with a nice straight line. And again, please use a ruler. Now remember, if we had to, we could figure out any one of those in-between points, and none of them would be nice. These are the only 4 nice points that fit on this graph. So again, key ideas today. If I give you a relation, an equation, you make a table. That's grade 8 and 9 math, and with a little extra practice, we'll all be pros.